To sleep is stressful enough without having to work out what tips are true or false. Well, researchers at New York University have matched the most common sleeping myths with scientific evidence. So what claims are in fact keeping you up at night rather than helping you nod off? Well, let's have a look at a couple of those now. Myth one is you can cope on less than 5 hours sleep a night. Have you heard that one? Well, researchers say this is one of the most damaging to your health and in fact linked a lack of sleep to heart attacks or strokes and also shorter life expectancy. Myth two that they've tried to bust is alcohol before bed boosts your sleep. Did you believe that? Well, the team said it may help you fall asleep, but it dramatically reduces the quality of your rest that night. On to myth three. Apparently, watching TV in bed helps you relax. I'd never heard of that one. However, the research watching television can cause stress right before bed when you're trying to power down and relax. And the likes of smartphones and tablets, it produces blue light, which can delay the body's production of vital sleep hormones. Well, let's get the very latest now and talk to a sleep consultant, Professor Ram Dhillon. Thank you so much for coming on the programme this afternoon. Let's start with the first one, shall we? Someone saying that you only need 5 hours or less sleep per sleeper, or a sleep a night, I should say. What do you make of that? Is that, in your opinion, true or false?
Well, it's patently false. All research has shown that you need about 6 cycles of sleep, and each cycle consists of, depends on who you talk to, between 3 and 5 stages. And each cycle is about 90 minutes to about 110 minutes. So if you imagine you need 6 of those cycles, you need a minimum of 6 or 7 hours of sleep. Anything less is going to not really reboot your brain in the way that one would expect.
But Margaret Thatcher famously said, didn't she, that she could survive on less than 5 hours a night. There are plenty of other high flyers around the world who say they only need 4 hours. Are they lying?
Well, they're not lying in one sense. You can survive on 4 hours, 5 hours for a number of days, if not a few weeks. But then you end up with a sleep deficit, and then you'll have 1 or 2 days where you'll really catch up. So I suspect Mrs. Thatcher probably had the odd weekend where she slept 7, 8, 9 hours and really didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly. What about having a little drink before bedtime to help you sleep through the night? Bad idea or not?
Well, alcohol is bad for a number of reasons. One is it's actually a respiratory or breathing suppressant, so it'll tend to make you breathe less easily. Secondly, it's a very potent muscle relaxant, so for those that snore and may have obstructive sleep apnea, it will make them considerably worse. And in some patients, alcohol really tips them into very severe obstructive sleep apnea. And thirdly, alcohol can also act as a diuretic, which means that you might end up producing more urine, and therefore you need to get up and pass water 0 times normally, but with alcohol maybe once or twice during the night, and that's going to cause disruption to your sleep. So alcohol is not a good idea.
And neither is watching TV before you try and nod off, by the sound of things.
Well, any visual stimulus is much more potent than, for example, say an audio stimulus. So if you watch TV, the light prevents your pineal gland, which is a little gland in the middle of your brain that produces melatonin, which assists sleep and initiates sleep. And if you have light on, then that production is vastly reduced.
What about
blue
reading,
light,
Professor? I mean, a lot of people read, don't they? And they say that helps.
Yeah.
Is that in the same bracket or is that different?
Well, it's slightly different in that you don't have so much visual light as you would with a TV or the blue light due to an iPhone or a smartphone. But sleeping is probably better, particularly if it's something a bit tedious and boring. Because what you need to do is become so bored that your brain sort of switches off.
And we're definitely not talking about Sky News then, aren't we? That people...
Probably not.
You're the sleep expert. Give us your top tips for getting a good night's sleep.
Well, first of all, you need to lead up to sleep. So you tone down your brain. You get away from the stress. OK, have a conversation, listen to light music. You need a decent temperature in the bed. OK, you need as dark a bed or bedroom as possible, and you need to have the right temperature. So simple hygiene, sleep hygiene elements. And the other thing that I think they had in this particular myth was snoring is harmless. Well, amazingly, snoring is not harmless, or potentially not harmless, because in about 2.4 million individuals in the UK, snoring is a predictor potentially of obstructive sleep apnea, which can have serious sleep consequences. So although snoring indicates that you are asleep, probably, the sort of sleep you're having is potentially dangerous in the medium to long term. So I would suggest that individuals who have partners with heroic snoring, because it's usually the partners who highlight this issue, is that they may well be suffering from obstructive sleep apnea.
And get it checked out. Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Ram Dillon, who no doubt is a fantastic sleeper. We're going to get a check.